Well, it can happen to anyone from any home, any income level.
New research out this month shows 340 people under 25 were sex trafficked from 2013 to 2016 right here in Milwaukee.
And as the I-Team's Casey Geraldo found out, it's happening in communities all over the state.
Everybody's, I think, obviously aware of what's going on, especially the locals that live around here. And
investigators tell us they have subpoenas for other areas and won't rule out even looking out of the state.
Somebody's been here and then, I don't know, out of the state, out of the country.
She could be right under our nose. She could be across the country.
Michael Halbach was in our studio Wednesday for a live interview with Fox News Channel.
Maybe it hopefully brings some leads as to where Teresa could be.
Avery repeats framing claim Halbach could still be out there, he says.
That's exactly what this guy said too. He said it just kind of looked like he was behind her, kind of hovering.
Exactly what she said.
Oh my gosh, wow.
They branched out to have not only a website on the ClearNet, on the regular internet, but their website was mirrored on the dark web.
Would you recommend using the dark web?
Yeah, her dad knows how dangerous of a situation this is.
She's gonna have to go a different route.
Yeah.
Kidnapped young women for sale on the dark web.
Oh, is he not killing this person?
They didn't look like a likely couple to me.
Okay.
And she looked kind of scared.
I don't even think he has that car anymore.
No.
Avery, who was released in 2003 after spending 18 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit, doubts that the bone fragments found in a burn pit near his Manitowoc County trailer are Teresa Halbach's.
In this tiny town, there's now three dead bodies.
Jerry Poggle is still waiting for the crime lab to tell him if the remains found last week are Teresa Halbach. Poggle says he'll be stunned if it's anyone else.
The bones are being sent to the FBI for possible DNA analysis. If there is no DNA match, it will raise new questions in the case.
With our detective meetings, we've discussed different possibilities.
And she was in a white van, driving a white van with a black male subject as a passenger.
Okay.
And someone was in the back seat.
Deputies say they were pulled over. They found a 17-year-old Milwaukee girl inside the car who said she had been sexually assaulted in a Manitowoc County home. The Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department.
Without a body, without a murder weapon, their only hope is a confession.
So graphic that at times it seemed the special prosecutor, Ken Kratz, had a hard time even talking about it, and it was hard for some of the people who were in the room to listen to. Investigators say they know now that Halbach was imprisoned, sexually assaulted, stabbed, and strangled before she died.
The murder did not happen the way that the prosecution claims it happened in season 1. There's absolutely no way that the way they said it happened is what happened.
What happened?
People like Lori Deppis and other people that have disappeared, I would continue to search his property in case, if this is the heart of this man, he was capable of committing other murders.
And again, I want to emphasize that the investigation revolves around one victim in this case, and that's Teresa Halbach.
So the bones were given back to Teresa Halbach's family, but Steven Avery's attorneys were never notified that this happened, and they were not able to do DNA testing.
Did he ever tell you that he killed anybody else?
No.
Sure.
He is the one and only victim in this matter.
I still think it's crazy, like, unless we don't have the full story yet, which we probably don't, she didn't do anything for him to start hating her.
I mean, you visualize, your daughter carefree and happy in 1 minute, and the next minute she's either duped or chloroformed or, out of her control, and somebody's taking advantage of her and hurting her, and it's such a frustrating feeling, because what can you do to help, Nothing. People that disappear, and there's always something found right away afterwards, or there's evidence or something, and it's like, why isn't there anything in Lori's case? Why is it just a blank slate? You know, it's like, what happened?
These young women were abducted or tricked and brought to what they call breaking ground houses, where the women and girls are brought to be what they call seasoned.
I don't really expect that I'll ever really find any answers, but I mean, I think about Lori all the time, so you know, August 19th is just a day.
Didn't show up to her studio in Green Bay, didn't return her sister's phone calls, and never came home. Something her family would know, since they can see her house through their trees.
Her sisters loved her. I mean,
Mark, incidentally, we've tried to get DCI to ping the phone with no results. The phone's turned off.
All right. Because she has no boyfriends or... No boyfriends. She's got a lot of friends in Green Bay. No boyfriends, though, that anybody's aware of.
Mark, do the parents know any of her friends by name?
None of them. She's got a lot of friends from when she went to college in Green Bay. The parents don't know really any of them, is what they told me.
Well, we got one here. Let me give you the information I have, because he's probably the most likely one.
Assaulted in a Manitowoc County home. The Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department.
Wisconsin Department of Justice taking a large step in the fight against human trafficking. It'll be led by the DOJ's Division of Criminal Investigation and Project Respect.
Why Milwaukee?
Unfortunately, Milwaukee is on the top of lists that we don't want to be on.
we need everybody's help. Please keep looking.
You know, everybody's, you know, I think obviously aware of what's going on, especially the locals that live around here.
A couple years ago, quite frankly, it was not on our radar. And then until we started getting all these reports from other cities, other divisions, that the girls were coming in from Wisconsin.
At this point, no one has been charged in connection with the disappearance of Teresa Halbach, and the investigation continues, now with the help of the FBI.
Whether it's internet or via satellite, Michael hopes with all of the local and national attention that his missing sister Teresa will soon be found.
Please, we beg you. We know she's out there. We just want to find her.
And say they are hopeful that she's still alive. The search is still centered on Avery's Auto Salvage along Highway 147 in Manitowoc County. That's where police say they found Halbach's car yesterday. That car is at the crime lab in Madison tonight, but police are continuing their search of the salvage yard through the night.
And she said it was a tumor that was down there.
They took pictures of it, that woman. But then when Earl went down the pit, he didn't see no hood laying up against it. He seen both doors, but he didn't see no hood.
Oh, so this is heavy. Okay, this is...
Here's a wider view of the yard that's filled with thousands of cars. Authorities are taking a closer look at this salvage yard, which is near Avery's home.
I don't trust this situation, not one bit.
Avery's lawsuit asks for $36 million in damages.
Aw, shit. Oh, man.
And accuses Manitowoc's DA and sheriff of targeting Avery because they knew him and didn't like him, even though they knew this man, Gregory Allen, fit their MO.
This seems wrong. Is he being set up?
Back to jail with you.
Investigators say DNA tests are included in the work the state crime lab is doing to help figure out what happened.
Investigators were also waiting for the crime lab to finish analyzing DNA that had been recovered but was not Teresa Halbach's or Steven Avery's. Interesting.
More than 100 officers are now involved in the search. Police have broadened their search area.
While the search is focused on the salvage yard, it's not confined to it.
The search warrants pertaining to the Avery property are still being executed, and the scope of the search has gone beyond that.
You check those airports to see if she went out of the state.
Investigators tell us they have subpoenas for other areas and won't rule out even looking out of the state.
Experts say I-94 is a heavy trafficking area because it makes transport easy.
Somebody's been here and then, I don't know, out of the state, out of the country.
We need all the help we can get. We don't know what happened to Teresa.
Monday afternoon. She could be right under her nose. She could be across the country.
12 News has documented Wisconsin pimps exporting teens to the North Dakota pipeline.
Do you think she's dead?
At this time, I can't answer. We don't know.
Teresa Halbach remains missing at this time, has not been found or identified, sir.
Investigators say they found evidence human in nature relating to Teresa's disappearance, but they won't say whether they think she's still alive.
I mean, there was no way to prove that he was innocent.
There was also not much to prove that he was guilty.
Besides all of the evidence up front.
I mean, I definitely think the mystery is much more complex than him just killing her.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it doesn't look good for him at all.
Almost everything imaginable that could be used to restrain and detain a person.
He also brought a drug that has the ominous street name, Devil's Breath.
The way the drug works is that you can put it in someone's drink, and once they ingest it, they don't completely black out and fall down. They're still alert, and they're still able to respond to any sort of commands that are given to them. Essentially what it does is it renders someone into a zombie-like state where they have no free will, so that they're susceptible to do whatever you tell them to do.
I noticed her, she just wouldn't give me eye contact. He was well dressed and she wasn't. So I'm like, that's odd.
Sheriff's Department? Yes. I'm just watching the news about this Teresa Halbach. And I live up on Washington Island, and we come over on the 5 o'clock ferry last night, and there was a couple sitting in the cabin. And as I look at this picture of her, it looks an awful lot like her.
What did the guy look like?
Well, he was maybe like 15 years older than her. They didn't look like a likely couple to me.
Okay.
And she looked kind of scared, and almost a few times I looked at her, she was almost going to sleep.
hopefully she's not already dead, because the only way he's gonna be okay is if they find her alive.
Okay, she's at the gas station. What connection does that have?
I think you guys already heard this information. A student had come in and said that the McClone family had been distributing some information down in the Sheboygan area, and they had two people. They were at a gas station, and one person in line when they were handing it out said they had just seen Teresa. This was yesterday.
Wow, so I have to go back in my mind and figure out what actually happened and what didn't. Obviously everything in the journal was kind of fake, but she said some stories were true.
About a half an hour ago, I stopped at Taco Bell. It's only a half a block down the street.
Okay. Was she in her vehicle?
No, I thought she was in a white van. She had a black guy with her.
Okay, this is good information. If you don't mind, I'm going to transfer you to the investigator, and could you please leave your name and number and then let him know in detail? Calumet County Sheriff's Department.
You busy?
Nope.
This lady walked into Walmart. There was a black guy. Didn't know if this black guy was following her or not.
That's exactly what this guy said, too. He said it just kind of looked like he was behind her, kind of hovering.
Exactly what she said.
Oh my gosh, wow. Well, this guy called and he said he was at Walmart right now. He's like, well, didn't Sheboygan call you? And I said, no. Because nobody had told me any of that.
Hi, it's Mark.
Half hour ago at Taco Bell in the city of Sheboygan.
Okay.
And she was in a white van, driving a white van with a black male subject as a passenger.
Okay.
And someone was in the back seat.
Deputies say they were pulled over. They found a 17-year-old Milwaukee girl inside the car who said she had been sexually assaulted in a Manitowoc County home. The Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department.
Law enforcement in eastern Wisconsin reporting they've recovered human trafficking victims.
Over the weekend, more than 100 people were busted in Wisconsin. 6 girls were rescued in Milwaukee, 1 in West Allis, 1 in Oak Creek, and 2 in Madison.
But now someone knows she's alive.
Oh, how is this gonna shake everything up?
We don't know where she is, so until we know where she is, we're definitely thinking that she's going to come home to us.
You found bones and body parts?
Yes, a lot more.
Yeah.
Well, it definitely concerns us that they are finding more human evidence. We realize that we will see Teresa again, whether it's here on Earth or up in heaven.
Pieces of human bone and teeth were found on the Avery property, and the bone has been determined to be that of an adult female.
Now, after saying yesterday they had received human evidence that pointed them toward a suspect, today investigators would only say they're continuing to gather, continuing to analyze more evidence, and they are open to it pointing them toward any number of suspects. And though the sheriff makes it clear the one victim in this case is Teresa Halbach, when asked if investigators on the property could also be finding evidence of other crimes, he responds,
I do not wish to divulge that information at this time.
They've certified her as being dead on November the 10th.
Dozens of those troopers walk into a large gravel pit very near the Avery homes today. Some of them occasionally return to certain spots to post red flags in the ground.
Special Prosecutor Ken Kratz announced Friday that Avery would be charged with the killing of Teresa Halbach, although her remains have not yet been identified.
We had been informed throughout this. We didn't find out today. We had known earlier. In the news conference, nothing came to us as a shock to us.
So at this point in time, they haven't even ID'd the body, but they are still going to arrest and charge Steven Avery with the murder. The murder of somebody they don't even know who it is at this point. It seems awfully strange.
I'm doing all I can to take the pressure off of them. I mean, it's the least I can do. It's the least I can do for Teresa to help find her.
The volunteers' search for Teresa is called off for now while the family waits for the state crime lab to identify the remnants of bone and teeth.
We did believe 100% that we would see Teresa again, and we know we will see Teresa again. It looks like it won't be here on Earth, but it will be in heaven.
Other than remains of a woman's teeth and bone, investigators noted the amount of blood found around Avery's property.
Where's the evidence on that?
Right.
There ain't none.
Where's the evidence she even died?
Yeah.
Prosecutors and police are still waiting for test results on the charred remains of a woman, bits of bone and teeth.
They said they got bones and teeth. Where?
The burned remains, such as those in this case, would be very difficult to examine for DNA.
The bones are too badly burned up for them to discover who or to get any DNA out.
Yeah, and that's why they sent it to the FBI.
The bones are being sent to the FBI for possible DNA analysis. If there is no DNA match, it will raise new questions in the case.
Avery repeats framing claim Halbach could still be out there, he says.
With our detective meetings, we've discussed different possibilities.
But the family believes she is dead, and there was a funeral for her on November 19th.
Found his blood, verified his blood in the car and also on the key, huh?
Also on the key, the vehicle, he says he's never been in.
Cool. Cool.
How can you get blood in there and no fingerprints? Huh?
Impossible.
5 hours of testimony, 6 witnesses, and 16 pieces of evidence. That's what it took for a Manitowoc County judge to decide Steven Avery will stand trial for the murder of Teresa Halbach. 9 witnesses were expected to take the stand, but the hearing wrapped up after testimony from a forensic expert who examined the bones found at the Avery junkyard.
The cause of death is listed as undetermined, and then someone has scratched that out. They've written a line through it.
Photo lab results and Halbach's death certificate are the last pieces of evidence presented to the judge before the hearing ended. That certificate states the cause of death was homicide.
Nothing adds up in this case.
Do we find out what's buried in that field?
No one is sure of the circumstances surrounding her death, but her friends are counting on faith to know Teresa is in a better place now.
They're heartbroken, but nothing would ever break us apart.
And as strong as the family is, he says they would not be able to get through this ordeal without the support the community has shown and their faith.
It'll take a while to move on, but we'll see Teresa again.
See, the only thing I don't understand, if them are her bones, how'd they get there?
We don't understand that either.
They don't even know if they're hers or not yet.
I told a lawyer about it, but I don't know if he checked it out. See, her dad was supposed to have something to do with this county jail.
Breaking news on the murder of Teresa Halbach. The FBI now confirms it was her remains found on Steven Avery's property.
The FBI was given the job of doing that test.
And it wasn't until today we found out for sure those remains were hers that were found on that property.
There was an immediate outcry that the FBI's test was false.
Steven Avery is no longer in the Brown County Jail. Avery's attorney said he doesn't know where Steven Avery is, but says Avery is undergoing some type of medical treatment. Family members we asked about Avery's condition told us they didn't know what was going on.
We're thankful to the FBI and the state crime labs for their help in identifying Teresa. And, you know, it hurts to know that it was her, but we've got some peace of mind knowing that it was her, and we don't have to worry about what other people are saying, how she might still be out there. So
they don't act like nothing. Why would you wait, 4 days, I think it was, to report her missing if she called home all the time? See, there was something fishy.
Can you tell us again how you heard the news?
My mom called me. I was at work today. She called me and told me that she had heard from Sheriff Poggle that the FBI has said that it was Teresa, has confirmed that, and my mom called me, as she called my brother. Doesn't change anything, just confirms what we already knew.
I'm an FBI agent. I lived in there for 25 years. You know what? FBI agents make mistakes. The lab can make a mistake.
They said that the burning barrel was still smoking.
Her charred remains were found smoldering in this auto salvage yard.
Now, those remains were found in a burn barrel at the Avery Auto Salvage Yard.
I mean, unfortunately, Teresa Halbach is deceased.
You know, would I have liked to hear something else that it's not her? I'm not sure, because that would be one big mess if it wasn't her. But I'm thankful that they have said it was her, because now there's no doubt.
I try to wrap my brain and think who's doing this to me. I can't figure it out.
Investigators seized Avery's computer, looking at the hard drive for sexually explicit material. Now remember, they didn't find any, but they did find all kinds, on Bobby Dassey's computer.
This was a day for damage control for the defense in the Steven Avery murder trial.
But he asked us if he wanted us to help him get rid of the body.
The defense did their best to show it was just a sick, twisted joke, not an admission of murder.
Yesterday, the timeline and context were in serious doubt. Dassey claimed his uncle made this statement in this garage November 3rd, in the presence of a friend named Mike. Unsure exactly of what time, though, before or after Halbach was officially reported missing later that day.
That is a big hole in your testimony.
They haven't presented any hard evidence that Teresa Halbach was held against her will.
Without any fingerprints, without any DNA evidence showing that she was actually in the bedroom, I think the defense made a strong argument that there has been no evidence presented in this case of false imprisonment.
The defense tried to plant doubt by saying that someone had checked Teresa Halbach's voicemail a day before she was reported missing. The prosecution objected.
Mike Halbach was recalled to the stand today, and he told the jury that he checked his sister's cell phone voicemail box the day she was reported missing. He said it was full, and that concerned him because his sister checked her voicemail frequently. The defense had said that someone other than Avery checked the voicemail, and the police did not follow up on that lead.
To me, this was another embarrassment from a crime lab.
with a very checkered past.
And this 43-page report outlines the allegations against the lab and the supervisor, including blood and urine samples that were kept in an unlocked refrigerator, inadequate training for those who were handling the samples.
Culhane admitted she had one shot at getting the profile because the sample was so small and was training 2 new analysts when the contamination occurred. Usually the test would be ruled inconclusive, but Culhane was allowed to deviate from protocol.
Third on the stand, Roland Johnson, who owns Steven Avery's trailer. He claims to own the guns investigators found inside.
An expert says Teresa Halbach died of 2 gunshot wounds to the head. Jeffrey Jensen says he can tell by skull fragments found on the Avery property.
As you sit here today, you can't tell this jury whether one or both of these gunshots were made while the person was alive.
That would be correct, yes.
The defense argues there's no way of knowing if Halbach was alive or dead before being shot.
What happens to skull bone when it's subjected to a gunshot or gunshots?
As you sit here and on the evidence you have, one or both of those gunshots as easily could have been fired into the skull of a dead person as into the skull of a living person. True?
That is possible.
The defense is trying to prove there is no concrete evidence how Halbach died.
Mr. Buting's position, if his theory of defense is that Teresa Halbach is alive on the 2nd of November, we're entitled to know that. We're entitled to notice of that. That's my objection, is that it's irrelevant. That absolutely is meant to mislead this jury.
Judge Willis said the jury will not hear about that issue right now, but could later.
The defense also called the Manitowoc County coroner to the stand. She was supposed to talk about how certain Manitowoc County officials prevented her from going to the Avery salvage yard. The defense claims that's a double standard. Some people were told to stay away, some were allowed access. In the end, the judge did not allow her testimony to go before the jury.
Son is innocent. After he made a lawsuit for $36 million.
Question. You did not find Mr. Avery's DNA on that weapon anywhere, did you? Answer. On the trigger guard is the only place I swabbed, but no, I didn't. And you did not find Teresa Halbach's DNA anywhere on the barrel either. Answer. Correct.
Time has eased the sadness of losing Teresa for the Halbach family, but her brother Mike says the hole left in that family will never go away.
I think it was just a big sigh of relief.
I fear this is one more failure in spite of everyone's best efforts and honest efforts.
It's anybody's guess how you could come back guilty on the homicide and not guilty on the mutilation of a corpse.
And then I heard not guilty on the second count, and then I was like, wait, what did I hear in the first one?
I think the prosecution deserves a ton of credit. I don't think anybody can appreciate how really difficult it is to put together a case like this with this number of witnesses, this type of evidence. I think Ken Kratz, I think Tom Fallon, I think Norm Gahn, who did the DNA stuff, they did an outstanding job.
The murder victim's brother calls Avery a liar.
Everything I've heard him say hasn't been the truth. No different today.
Call it untrue, but Avery's never changed his story.
I hope that a part of today was an opportunity for people to remember Teresa Halbach, to remember the kind of person that she was, and we're very happy that we were able to achieve a degree, at least, of justice for Teresa's homicide.
And I mean, don't let me fool you. I'm trying to stay as strong as I can, but it hurts. Everything hurts. We're a very strong family.
He had a dream that when he was up on the stand and everything, and he says just that was ending, somebody came out with a black robe on, And they flipped the top out, and it was Teresa, and she was alive. And it was all a joke.
At the time of her murder, Teresa Halbach was a photographer, not only for Auto Trader magazine, where she got to know the Avery family, but also for Tom Pierce, a photographer.
I love taking pictures. I love holding the camera in my hand.
There was very poor investigation done of the victim's background, who she was involved with, circumstances of her life.
Retired photographer Tom Pierce says Teresa Halbach was like the daughter he never had.
I'm pretty convinced that whatever Kathleen Zellner says she's going to do, it's pretty likely that she's going to do it.
He says Teresa started as an intern at Pierce Photography, but with natural talent and a knack for putting people at ease, he offered her some studio space to pursue her dream.
You know, we're offering to pay them money for their footage, and we would say footage of Steven Avery, and they would hang up on us. There were obstacles out there. And so for the most part, law enforcement was tolerant. I mean, we had a right to be in the courthouse.
Making a Murderer is a 10-hour documentary looking at the story of Steven Avery.
We were searching for and hoping to find Teresa Halbach alive.
The filmmakers say they were always concerned with fairness and accuracy.
From my perspective, it's a fair representation of what we witnessed going on.
And I felt so terrible for them that this is all just like, not only was it made, but then now it's just such a big show that everyone's talking about it, and this must be hell for them.
What was up with that video they showed at the beginning of the series? Teresa Halbach being like, if I die, then what?
And this one people I love me, but remember that. But I was happy.
But to see how it impacts the lives of the victims who suddenly are accused of, in the case of Teresa Halbach, being alive, right? People came up with conspiracy theories because they watched a Netflix doc. They said they traced the cows and she was in Mexico. I mean, really out there theories.
I love traveling. I love talking about traveling.
The headline states, Making a Murderer, Teresa Halbach's death certificate slammed as deeply flawed after new details emerged.
The trial judge ruled he would not admit the death certificate as evidence without hearing from the Calumet coroner about how he made his determinations found in the certificate.
It talks about how there is a number of glaring anomalies with the death certificate, and some of the dates or times don't seem to add up with key parts of the form being filled in incorrectly or wrong.
And because Clayther never testified, the death certificate should not have been admitted.
And it was signed off on December 6, 2005, the same day Steven Avery's preliminary trial began.
That's right. So the first scene in the episode you just saw was Steven's preliminary hearing, which was December 6th of 2005, and that was our first day of shooting. But it was clear that the state was very suspicious of us.
Well, they tried to subpoena our footage. It was totally baseless. I mean, they said that they believed that we had, information that was pertinent to the case, that was either helpful to the state or helpful to, I think they might have even just said helpful to Steven. It was ridiculous, and they knew it.
So, do you believe that your brother Steven has knowledge of why Teresa Halbach disappeared? Yes or no? I don't know that question. Do you believe that your brother Steven has direct knowledge of why she disappeared?
If he was the last one to see her...
No. Yes or no? Do you or don't you?
If he was the last one to see her, yes. I guess.
The Wisconsin Department of Justice taking a large step in the fight against human trafficking. Attorney General Josh Call announced the recreation of the Wisconsin Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force.
They say they just began tracking the number of people being trafficked in our area, so they don't have an exact number.
It's always been here,
It's just now we're more vigilant and we're more educated, we're more well-trained on where to find the things and how to find them.
But we know that a lot more trafficking victims are starting to come up that are at least 11 and 12 years old.
All the horrible searches on his computer, not just, you know, kid stuff that I won't mention
I
on
know.
here.
It was shocking.
It was like exactly stuff that, you know, happened.
For car parts, and he and his friends, even back then, knew not to go on the Avery lot because it was like a place you could...
Watching and observing, possibly stalking, you know, Teresa Halbach, you know, around the time frame that she's going to meet her demise.
It is a little bit frustrating that all of our best alternative suspects are, you know,
are all like members of his family, like Barb's husband. Barb, what are you, how to move? I'm like right now concerned that Barb is watching this. Barb, I think, God bless you, but I did hear that.
Or the fact that there was just some bizarre behavior by these guys at the time of the time of the crime.
Normally we wouldn't have all this information about a victim's whereabouts leading up to the time of their death, but because Teresa's appointments were mostly scheduled, we do.
Was really trying to get a handle on Teresa's consistent whereabouts. What was her routine and regularity?
Zellner claims Teresa's cell phone location data consistently places her where she was reported to be for her Auto Trader appointments, meaning her ping data is remarkably accurate.
Teresa did leave Avery's property around 2:35 that Monday afternoon, which was Halloween.
Yeah, I believe Catherine, like, she wasn't killed in his trailer. She was on her knees down there, and something made high velocity spray on the hatch.
The hatch, inside the hatch.
Yeah, the tailgate,
Sideways,
whatever. Yeah, and then her body was thrown in there.
I can't figure that out. They hate me that much to frame me for like that.
Do you think your brother Chuck is capable of having been involved with the disappearance of Teresa Halbach as well? It could be, yes. If your brother Chuck had direct knowledge of what Steven did, would he try to help Steven and remain silent and lie to law enforcement to help cover it up? Yes or no?
I would have to say yes, because he gets along with him better than I get along with him.
You cover enough of these stories, you know that if somebody's gone for a certain amount of time and the family says it's uncharacteristic, you know that more than likely the person has died or something bad has happened.
Do we have a body or anything yet?
I don't believe so.
And my husband sits back and thinks, well, how did the car get there Saturday morning when everybody was there, searched the pit, it wasn't there. He drove right through there on Wednesday night, the car wasn't there. It just mysteriously pops up on Saturday.
Scott and Bobby teaming up, or, you know, Brendan and, you know, Steven and maybe Earl and Chuck, you know.
In the last few years, the oldest and youngest sons, Chuck and Earl Avery, have taken over the family business.
So there's three theories as far as where the dismantling takes place.
Josh Redant says Chuck Avery called him and asked what police were doing in the quarry, and Redant thought that was odd.
They keep to themselves and that's about it. Like, they didn't seem like to really be out in the community very often, and even though they had the business.
They are really good people. And the ones that know them know that they're good people.
You had these other bone fragments that were found out at the quarry that included the pelvic bone.
A 25-year-old woman killed in the prime of her life.
Teresa Halbach was the one and only victim here.
And her own research into the case, she became convinced that he was in fact a serial killer.